Whitstable, on the north coast of Kent, has been home to many famous and infamous people over the years. One well-known former resident was the author and playwright W. Somerset Maugham. William Somerset Maugham was born in France, but spent much of his early life in Whitstable, where his uncle was the vicar. His novel Cakes and Ale was first published in 1930 and has been in continuous print ever since. The story is largely set in Whitstable, which the author thinly disguises as Blackstable. The 21st century is rapidly catching up with Whitstable, and there are new roads, housing estates and business parks going up all over town. But there are still some parts of old Whitstable that both Somerset Maugham and the characters he created would still recognise. So come with me to Whitstable and the Cakes and Ale Trail. First stop on the Cakes and Ale Trail is Joy Lane. Today it's a suburban thoroughfare, and for many years it was the main road to London, as this redundant road sign attests. But it was in Joy Lane that the book's main character, Willie Ashenden, first learned to ride a bicycle and encountered Edward Driffield and his wife Rosie. The book describes the road as perfectly flat and straight, yet most of the lane is hilly, so this is probably the part of Joy Lane the author had in mind, out near the railway bridge in Seawall. The style that Willie Ashenden leant against and the fields he could see have long since gone, but a pathway off Sherrin's Alley, which itself leads from Joy Lane, takes you to Prospect Field, all that remains of Prospect Farm that once lined the lane. From here it's possible to get an idea of the view across Whitstable Bay and the Thames estuary that he would have seen. Next stop on the Cakes and Ale Trail is the site of the old Vicarage in Sandton Road. The house itself was demolished many years ago, and this housing estate was built on the grounds. It's called Morn Court, after the clergyman rather than his nephew. The layout of Sandton Road has changed little despite the encroachment of new buildings, so it's just possible to imagine this spot, on a moonlit night empty of cars, as the place where the adulterous Rosie Driffield met up with her lover, Lord George Kemp, although the fields they eloped to have long since been built on. From here we move on to the junction of Canterbury Road, Belmont Road and Oxford Street. Today this building is a private home and a shop, but in Somerset Maugham's day it was the Railway Inn, and it was here that the young Rosie Gann worked as a barmaid. At the time it was considered to be a house of ill repute. The last pint was pulled here in 1978. The area beneath the railway arches is a restaurant today, and for many years it was the Labour Club, but originally it was the booking office for Whitstable Station, back when the line from Faversham to Ramsgate was only a single track. The platform was on the bridge and reached via a flight of stairs. The next stop on the Cakes and Ale Trail is Middle Wall. In the book, W. Somerset Maugham states that the Driffields rented a cottage next to the Congregationalist church. Today the church is United Reformed, but the cottage he probably had in mind is still there. A short walk through the alley opposite the church takes you to the High Street and St. Alfred's Church, where both William Somerset Maugham's and the fictional Willie Ashenden's uncles were vicar. Our next stop is at the far end of the High Street, where it divides into Harbour Street and Sea Street. This building is now a restaurant with flats above, but until recently it was the Bear and Key Hotel. It was here that the fictional Willie Ashenden and the real-life William Somerset Maugham stayed on their return visits to Whitstable. The pub on the left is the Duke of Cumberland, in the book it's called the Duke of Kent, and the street between the two buildings is where townsfolk would stop to pass the time of day. Not something that would be advisable now. The penultimate stop on the Cakes and Ale Trail is Reeves Beach, off Seawall. In Chapter 3, Willie Ashenden goes for a swim at the beginning of his school holidays and encounters Edward Driffield on his way home. From the description of the route, this is most likely to be where that swim took place, a popular bathing spot in Victorian times before Tankerton Beach with its array of bathing huts was developed. The final stop on the Cakes and Ale Trail is the harbour. Whitstable Harbour is still a working harbour with its own fishing fleet and resident sailing barge. Aggregates have replaced coal as the principal cargo, and tourists outnumber dock workers, but it has so far resisted attempts to turn it into a marina. The harbour was also the site of the original terminus of the Canterbury and Whitstable Railway, affectionately known as the Crab and Winkle Line. It was from here that Willie Ashenden would have taken the train to school in Canterbury, real-life Canterbury, a journey the author would have known well. When Cakes and Ale was first published, there was much speculation as to the real identities of the characters portrayed in it. While the central character of Willie Ashenden is undeniably based on the author himself, and the names Kemp and Gann can still be found in the Whitstable phone book, the identities of other characters are less clear. Many people concluded that Edward Driffield was based on the author Thomas Hardy. This was something Somerset Maugham strongly denied, even going so far as to state in the preface to later editions of the book that he had only met Thomas Hardy once and had known little about him before writing Cakes and Ale. It's most likely that each character is an amalgam of people Somerset Maugham knew, both in Whitstable and elsewhere. Another mystery was the title. The book is set in either a bakery or a brewery. In his first Blackstable-based novel, Of Human Bondage, William Somerset Maugham paints a dark picture of a lonely orphan brought up by uncaring relatives in a dull seaside town. It was also a semi-autobiographical work. Indeed, Somerset Maugham left Whitstable as soon as he was old enough, and made only occasional fleeting visits to the town during the remainder of his long life. It is possible, though, as the 20th century established itself, that he, like many of his generation, may have looked back fondly on the late Victorian times in which the bulk of the book is set, and took the title from a line in Twelfth Night by William Shakespeare. In one scene, Sir Toby Belch thinks of the good times just past, and remarks to Malvolio, "Dost thou think because thou art virtuous there shall be no more cakes and ale?"